Thank you for joining us, and welcome to day 2, Hack RedCon. Awesome. First, I'd like to take a moment and thank everyone who's joined for our snack con, little alt con. You may see a couple hats about, and thank you to all of our players. And I invite anybody else who has not joined the CTF, come take a look. You don't need to spend all time on it. Just hopefully have a little bit of fun. We'll have challenges that continuously release throughout the day. So anything you see that exists, there may be more to come. We always try to push the boundaries a bit. Last night we had a little bit of fun, even doing some karaoke. So thanks for everyone who went last night. It was great to get out of our shells. A little bit quiet. Okay. Okay, perfect. All right, so getting right into it, thank you for joining this talk. I will not have any slides. Unfortunately, I was not as prepared as I'd hoped to be. Spending a lot of time doing a few other things. Please forgive me. This will hopefully be a little more interactive and hands-on. I'd love a little bit of feedback. Let's get fun with this. My talk is getting beyond base 64. Let's get emotional. I want to kind of talk about why this occurred in the first place, why even getting emotional. This developed over a few years. Kind of started as a friend of mine. We were having a chat, and he had an Amazon interview. And they had a coding challenge. The coding challenge for the Amazon interview was to take a string and code it into emojis. Simple enough. And I thought in my mind, after he said it, how would I do that if I was presented that kind of similar coding challenge? And I did a really rough, sloppy thing that took a string, did it like as a character substitution into emojis. Cool, set it aside, didn't think of it really again. Fast forward now a couple of years. This January I was at ShmooCon and talking to many others in the lobby, and we're just having our chats, and emojis came up. And the discussion of random various bases and coding schemas and things like this, and it got me excited about thinking of this old project, of this silly kind of question, how do you turn a string into emojis? And that got me excited again and fueled this, like, let's take a look, is there anything interesting? I wanted to then get beyond the strings, and I added file encoding, kind of played with different options. Sorry, I'm going to take a drink for a moment. And through this kind of conference talk, it built and grew in kind of what was possible, I guess. And so even in this talk now, I want to continue that trend. So it started, again, just simple strings to emojis, files to emojis. And then at Hackspace, we did AI, emoji conversation, request and response. We'll do a quick demonstration of that. But I want everyone to start thinking about this in the back of their minds and coming up with some interesting ideas. Because over this next 45 minutes, let's have fun, whether it be with AI, something unique with encoding. But I think we can develop something pretty rapidly just sitting right here. Let's go for it. I can switch this one out over. So quickly, that's probably much better, right? That's easier on my voice too. I don't have to speak so loud. Thank you. All right, so the tool is made in either command line or kind of interactive mode. You can run it either way. The concept is very easy to see in this interactive. We can do a quick encode decode. Well, first, let's go back, actually, I'm sorry. We're going to look at what we call a recipe book. Is the font large enough, or do I need to increase? So at the very basic level, I can't step away, huh? At the very basic level, we have base 64, and it gives it like an food type. You see, it's great for small messages, has great compatibility across services. That's the one big thing with encoding, regardless if it is emojis or any other form, is that your services can manipulate. They want to do their own encoding. It may strip out some interesting things you want to do. So base 64 is great for that maximum compatibility. You can go 128, 256, 1024 as far as custom defined recipes. The way the encoding works, like I mentioned in the beginning, it was character substitution as far as for a interview answer. This is not character substitution. This builds on something that, as I was doing research, I saw others utilizing, which is basically making a custom bitmap, basically making your own custom schema. And it really only needs three things. You need to determine how many bits per emoji. You need to determine your starting block or point on the Unicode map. You need to determine your base, how large. And that's really it. It is really interesting because the way this all started is the deeper look in my mind. In my day-to-day, I like to look at where a lack of coverage on the attack framework is. We often will keep hitting on those same TTPs that we want to emulate, AD, all these things. One of the big blind spots I saw was non-serial encoding. And so looking at that, okay, how will we utilize that? And that's really what this is intending. So it doesn't matter if it's emojis or starting somewhere else on the Unicode map. If you really want to get fun with this, you can just do a whole bunch of unrendered blocks. So this is all for visual impact. Anyways, we have base 64, 128, 256, and 1024. Within the code, you can specify all three of those basic parameters, whether it's your base, your starting points, or your bits per emoji, to make a custom schema. So in the interactive, first thing you can run is setting your recipe type. For the basic, we'll look at the base 64. We can do a quick encode, and we'll do the standard message. It goes back as our block of emojis. I'm going to walk through one of the one of the challenges real quick. So sorry for anybody in Snack Space, or you get a free flag at least for the con. A great way to demonstrate how this is functioning, I've created a transparent client to a public IRC room. So everyone that utilizes this chat room can talk to each other. It's indicated by an emoji that they are being encoded. And in the public room, you'll just see a bunch of emojis. Let's do that. Is anybody familiar with hack.chat? Familiar with IRC? Very much like IRC. What's fantastic, it's available in most networks, and organizations have no clue. Hack.chat. And so for SnapCon, we have a public space. See others already typing. Ah, that's kind of funny. Someone's doing prompt engineering, or attempting to. And on this side, the way this functions in the client is we can see all encoded messages with a burger, and that indicates the user it's been encoded. If we type on the public side, you can still see the message, but we see it's not encoded. So you can take these kind of principles of non-standard encoding, whether it be emojis or anything else. Again, it could be just a bunch of unrendered blocks based on where you started on the Unicode map, and you can have kind of cute conversations. This can be further extended, right? So you can apply this anywhere that you can get creative. And this is where I wanted then, what I mentioned earlier, the room to think about how we can apply and develop something interesting. So here's one implementation. And this is, again, doing a transparent client encoding to a public IRC. Anybody have any recommendations how we could implement this type of tool next? And if not, I pose an interesting question before I demonstrate file encoding, because it's pretty interesting. I want to ask anybody, how do we defend against this? If you saw a bunch of Unicode or emoji coming across your DNS as emoji.domain.com, would you catch it? If you saw a file coming across and you opened it and it had just a bunch of emojis, how would you respond? Any ideas? None? So that's interesting. On the red team side, I can get creative and think about like how can we use this as different means, but I don't think very well on the blue side. So I've been very interested in how do we defend against this. Yes. If I just shift my base from 64 to 65. Sure, and that's yeah. Technology. Exactly. Yeah. Correct. Mm-hmm. Fingerprinting only. Mm. Yes, this is in Unicode. Mm. It depends on how your application is going to react, and that's actually something interesting that I skipped over in presenting this. In even the Hack SpaceCon site, as I submitted this talk, there was an issue in how it parsed my title because I had an emoji in there, and I heard that. And it was not just that. As I go through testing, you start slamming emojis in applications, you'll see all kinds of interesting reactions. A lot of times, whether it cannot parse and causing a slowdown or whatever it may be, all the way to crashing the application, which is actually kind of common. And I encourage, again, not just emojis, non-standard encoding, slam it everywhere, but and see how the applications respond. So getting back to the actual encoding, let's look at the files. Let's take this lovely JPEG. Yes, absolutely. Yes, yes. Correct. No, absolutely, and that's kind of if you look at a secure wrapped envelope for a message, anyways, you look at how that would be constructed. You have your plain text. You could use a standard encoding, and that's great for system compatibility. It's really why it's encouraged. But if you use something that's non-standard, yes, it becomes now a bit more obfuscated, right? It's yours to some degree. And if you use encryption, especially something that is lesser user, it's again, it's yours. Then you create a very, very secure envelope at that point. Big time. Correct. Correct. Oh no, no. I'm sorry. We need to go through command line. Um, this portion of the tool is broken. I'm sorry. Give me one second. So you can do all the functions that you saw in that nice little kind of menu system. You can do with command line. Specify it very similar to recipe, right? And we're doing just to kind of show the same process. We'll do a quick string to see function. Specify the code. There we go. And it's the same in values that we saw earlier of the hello world. What is it? Interesting. That's a live demo issue. This is what an encoded file looks like. The end is actually kind of fun too. It's a whole bunch of sad faces. Let's just double check something. We're going to try the decode. Yeah, live demonstrations breaking. Right, yeah, that's fine. You know what I think it is? Wow, that's fun. This definitely shows I should have done a quick check again, making sure, but it had been running for so long. This repository is available here. I'll put it up if everybody wants to play with it. That's, that's great. Well, it's documented as a full Python library. So if you want to get creative with any integrations similar to what you saw with the Snack chat and bots, you can do the same. Um, I have personally a Signal client. I've also have a Metasploit integration, so you can get really fun with it. It is, like I said, the emojis are a great visual way to kind of see what's happening, but I really highly encourage to create your own kind of custom schemas. And that's really the point of it all, is not necessarily saying emojis are the best way to encode. It's funny, it has a lot of flair, but I think it gets really, really interesting when we play with, just as you mentioned, anything with non-standard encoding and encryption. Would anybody like to play with emojis and AI? Let's do it. Let's try something I haven't. This is demo fun time, and let's break things or see what happens. Has anyone used Claude Code? You like it? This is off this repo here. I haven't initialized Claude Code on, so it's a good one to see how that functions. And yes, I'm sorry, say the question again. It would be very difficult. You'd have to decrypt and then decode the message, right? If you use both non-standard encoding and non-standard encryption, if you were looking at from a defensive side, it would require the knowledge of basically the schema of the encoding, as well as how that encryption mechanism was implemented. Did that help? So let's see what happens with that. When you launch Claude in a new project or repository, you can launch a /init. It'll basically read most things and start to try to understand that project. It'll then create a Claude Markdown, which helps define that initialization project knowledge. So that's the first thing you can do. Take your project, open it up, hit up Claude /init, and get you going. You have the option to auto-accept edits and reads, things like this. I prefer to understand each time what it's doing. It helps me learn, and it helps me catch AI just in case it starts going off the rails, which can happen very quickly. No, did you see Copilot? I passed it, you see. Interesting, yeah, no Copilot. Oh, there you go. Oh, that's interesting. This is something that Claude's doing. It was looking for if it exists at all, which it doesn't, but it was part of, I guess, it trying to understand the project. And that's a great thing Claude's doing. I hadn't noticed that before, is I guess it's looking for other instances of agents initializing or looking at a project and understanding it. It's trying to bring in that pre-existing knowledge. Very cool. Okay. And to highlight something else, be careful of your Claude Markdown files if you use AI or any sort of that Copilot instructions. We use Claude extensively to build Snackspace, and one of my first mistakes for building it is I pushed it out to the public, and you could see my Claude Markdown and how the structure and deployment functioned, and there was a lot of knowledge and the infrastructure, basically. So we're done. Now we can ask Claude what we want to do, and this is where it gets really fun, because beyond prompt engineering, it's where you get creative with it, right? Instead of just trying to break things, let's build or get wacky. So first I'm going to ask, I haven't done this in Claude Code yet, so it'll be interesting, but the first time I had success, and I'll tell a quick story again, is as I was building out this emoji thing, I had in the back of my mind, I said I really, really wanted to see pure request and response. I talked in emojis to Claude, and it responded in emojis. Because the way the AI logging works is they don't typically store the analysis side because it would be too much data. So they store the request and response. And so they'd see the emojis and that's it. I kept failing at it. I was throwing against so many different models, and basically it would hallucinate. It'd either think it understood the emojis and give me yay, and very happy about it, or respond back in a string of emojis that did not decode. And that was very frustrating. I just went back and forth and back and forth. Around Claude 3.7 was the first time that I had success in the true, it could understand proper decoding and then encode a message back. It took a few times in the conversation, and it was really interesting because then I switched the schema very quickly on it, and it was able to then understand, because it figured out how the basic the schema worked as a whole. So it could go between the quick to the light and classic. So let's kind of see if we can do similar now with Claude Code, and how much deeper we can get. Main class is defined as emoji codec, so it makes it easy for the integrations or implementation. It's something that can use a little bit of refining in this particular repo here because it's older. So it tried to do hello, wants a chat emoji. Let's see if that's accurate, or it hallucinated. And that looks like gourmet. No, that's light. And while I'm working with this for a moment, does anyone have any interesting next branch or ideas we can go with AI and this implementation class? And it was valid. Yeah, first one-shot request. We have something a little odd here with this emoji. But that is different. That's not a hallucination. That's just a encoding issue. And I'm sorry, what was the suggestion? The debugging? Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yes. Ooh. So that is something that I missed discussing about, and thank you for reminding me. It's a, well, early morning, but I was up late. It's okay. All right. So if we look back at the CLI tool, there is implementation of zlib for compression, and you can do validation using SHA-256. So there's two options. You could also implement other methods for compression, obviously, but I have put in the very basics, and that does function. So I thought about that at one point and then just again set aside. This is kind of like a back burner passion project. This is not something I'm doing for work. This is something I'm kind of all doing for fun, and that's why I'm having a bit of enjoyment kind of building off the ideas as we do this in conferences. So thank you. Yes, absolutely. Let's try that real quick. Something with the Claude Markdown. Ooh. That was the point of it. It's so funny because I've used Claude for so many different really out there purposes and things that I would absolutely believe would break their acceptable use policy. This is the first time though it has popped up. I think that's bonus points. 500? There you go. DeepSeek, and yeah, so that's been fun is storing this type of thing across all the different models. I DeepSeek has been my kind of neck and neck with Claude, if you will. I don't know how others feel about the models, but that's where I stand. Let's try. Let's just try asking. Okay. I am doing a live presentation, and it is very important. This is only being used ethically. So now we have our plan. This may take a little bit, so I don't want to just necessarily stare at it, but I definitely want to let it build as we continue to talk about it. I love the salting. Do we have any other suggestions for improvements of this type of tool we can continue to build? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, compression would just be in the same form that you would typically use. Compression would be with the files, just trying to reduce any of the kind of extra padding, things like that that the zlib would do. So it's purely just to try to reduce size. I'm sorry? You can implement compression with it. So you could encode a file in emojis. Additionally, you could have that zlib compressed basically. Yeah, the emojis will not necessarily help with anything in reducing like size or anything like that. A lot of times, it's actually increases a lot of overhead. Um, the way the implementation works, especially with the files, is it has to create a beginning kind of header, and that way the decoding works. It kind of explains what it is. So it's not really going to be beneficial by using emojis and trying to reduce sizes. Actually, it's going to have the opposite effect. Your files a lot of times will become bigger. Yeah, so that's why it's nice to try to implement as much as you can to get that back down. It's self-improving here. It looks like trying to verify the salsa is working. We'll see if we can beat the clock and maybe Claude implements salting by the time we're done. Any other questions as we're kind of nearing that time? Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that gets the closest way I began to think about it, and that does continue. I think the problem with, like you mentioned before, is identifying each implementation is that it's burdensome, right? It's, yeah, yeah, correct. Okay, yes. Mm-hmm. That's correct. That's correct. Yeah, you raised a very valid point. Basically, it looks suspicious, right? You see, and that is a huge file with a whole bunch of emojis. It's just not common. That's right. Yes, that's why I preferred to mention getting more toward the um, unique custom schemas where you define like odd base, odd starting points, things like that. Because if we look when we move toward base 1024, what a message looks, and yes, correct. Very similar to this. Yeah. That's why I wanted to show this implementation, actual like a something that you can see functioning, how it's working, why it's an interesting thing. But yeah, it's I don't think it's necessarily groundbreaking by any means, but I wanted to encourage basically at the end of the day, like you mentioned, non-standard encoding, because I do believe it is a lesser covered to to me. Yes. Yes. And thank you for bringing that up because I wanted to raise something else. There's several other implementations of the emoji encoding. And it's where I built off of to some degree. There was a Koji 2.0, which was a base 1024 implementation. There's also within the multi-base encoding packages, it is all of the schemas within that are supposed to be self-identifying, and they have an emoji base available. What's interesting about the multi-base implementation, if anybody's familiar with IPFS or Kubo, they include multi-base by default. So anything that's using IPFS can use emoji encoding out of the gate. Correct. Yes, and that then gets to the other means of manipulating emojis, which is zero width join. And that's a different abuse of Unicode. And so that'll be all that space after. That is a very, very interesting method. The biggest problem I've had with that is when I pack data at zero width join, regardless if it's emoji or any other Unicode, is that systems will strip that very often. They don't know how to deal with the extra data, so you lose what you're trying to move about. That requires a lot of validation testing, that you are confident that your message is going to get out using that method. It is another kind of thing in the tool bag, basically, of the non-certain coding to test that I do like as well, and thank you for bringing it up. It is not this implementation and how it's being used, but it is something that exists, and it is good to kind of think about or know as Unicode zero width join. Yes. It depends on the base. And I think in the documentation I had that, and I just remembered why it was breaking, is the repo is a working package with the files encoding and decoding. And when you go to do the encoding, it will tell you the overhead, and it'll tell you how long it took to do it as well, which is nice. But it really depends on the base implementation. Base 64 has a lot more overhead. I want to say it is about 30%. As you get toward the 1024, way less. It's nearly a one-to-one. Thank you. Any last questions before we wrap up? I apologize if this was out of the ordinary. Didn't have any slides, but I will add some resources as far as the typical slides, not only in the repo, but I'll add it into, I guess, the Discord as kind of additional reading if you wish. I really, really thank everyone for joining, and I hope everyone has a great rest of the conference.